And all right, can you guys see my screen? Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So my name is Alice Schaaf. I am the Assistant Director of International Recruitment at Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky in the US. And today I am going to take you on a very quick trip through an overview of the US application process for undergraduate admissions. And this is really very much an overview because for all the 4,000 universities in the US, we all get to set our own rules, our own deadlines, our own applications, our own application processes. So this is very much just kind of sort of just an overview, some guidelines, and you'll notice that I use the words "it depends" and kind of like it's up to all the different universities a lot. So, you know, as you go along, if you continue with NextGenius, you'll have their guide, them as a guide in this process to help. It does seem very confusing at first, but using these different sessions will help. And you know, the more you sort of do your own research and the more you use the resources that are out there, the more you'll learn. So, moving right along. The first thing you're going to notice is that we use these two terms, college and university, interchangeably. And we're probably the only country that does. In other countries, the term college means the last 2 years of secondary school. So in the US university system, college and university can mean the same thing. So in general, college and university are used interchangeably when we're talking about 4 years of the bachelor's degree, which is your first step after secondary school. So you'll hear the terms used interchangeably, and in general, they mean the same thing. Sometimes they don't. So sometimes, it depends. A college will refer to a small private liberal arts, undergraduate only, university level institution. And sometimes university refers to a larger institution that has bachelor's programs, master's programs, PhD programs. But again, this is not always the case. For instance, Transylvania University doesn't have master's or PhD programs. We are only a small private liberal arts undergraduate, you know. So in general, when you think that college means undergraduate only, or that university means giant and everything, it doesn't. So just kind of keep that in mind. But we do use college and university interchangeably all the time. And especially when Americans are talking about the college process or going to college or college years or college life, that's what we're talking about, is the 4 years after your secondary school. So when you're looking at applying to college or university in the US, the bachelor's program, there are some general admissions factors that pretty much every university is going to be looking for. These are not numbered because if I numbered them, you would think that they were in a specific order. They're kind of in order, but again, every university gets to do their own thing. So different universities might order these in a different way, but in general, the most important thing that we're looking for is that you're a strong student and that you are going to be ready to be a university student. So we're really looking for how you did in high school or in secondary school, so that we can see that you are, you know, doing well, so that you are ready to do well at our institution as well. So we do ask for a transcript or your high school record or whatever it's called at your institution, so that we can see what you've been doing before you get to us. We want to see that you've challenged yourselves. We're going to ask you to write an essay. And this is different from other university application processes in other countries. Other countries are going to ask you to write a motivational statement for why you want to study a particular course. Well, for the US universities, again, in general, we are going to ask you to tell a story about yourself. And you're going to be like, why do you want me to tell a story about myself? Well, we just want to learn a little bit more about you as a person. In general, again, the US application system is very holistic. We want to learn more about you as a person. We want to see you as a three-dimensional human that's going to take up space on our campus. So in addition to your numbers that you're going to give us for your grades and possibly test scores, we want to see what kind of a human being you are and what kind of impact you're going to have on our campus and in our classrooms. So we ask you for a bunch of different pieces that help us put together that puzzle that's you. So the personal statement looks a little different in the US application than it will for instance, the UK or possibly Canada or the Netherlands, where they're asking you specifically to talk about the program that you're studying. Other things that you're going to include on your application for the US will be a list of things that you do outside of the classroom. And this literally is everything that you do outside of the classroom. So don't think about just in terms of what you do that relates to the course that you might be studying. Think about what jobs you have, what family responsibilities you have, what, how you volunteer in your community, anything that you spend your time doing outside of the classroom. We're going to ask you for recommendation letters. We're going to ask you to ask your teachers to tell us about you. We maybe want to hear from a school counselor about you. And these are just, again, ways to find out different information, what you're like in the classroom, what you're like in your school and community. This just gives us different sides, different pieces to that puzzle. Sometimes this will be a whole different session. I'm sure we could talk for hours about the SAT and the ACT, and everyone hates to talk about them, but the SAT and ACT might be required for some universities, but not all require them. So you'll hear the term test optional, and there are different types of test optional labels. But if you go to fairtest.org, there are a list of hundreds of universities that don't require the SAT and ACT, and that number has grown a lot since COVID because we recognize that ACT and SAT are very hard to come by sometimes, especially when COVID shuts down testing opportunities. Some universities will require interviews, again, not all, and some will offer interviews and say they're not required, but so you have to sort of look at all of these different pieces that are on all of the different university websites and just sort of see what's required, what they're asking for. You have to be very organized when you're applying to the US. Some universities will require, if you're interested in the arts at all, they will ask you for a portfolio or an audition. And again, a lot of that is done virtually now, so that's easy enough to do. And then there's this term that's fairly unique to the US called demonstrated interest. And demonstrated interest means that we want to know how much you like us. And this is, again, unique to more of the smaller universities, like probably College of Charleston and definitely Transylvania, where we just want to see how you've been interacting with us. Like, when we offer programs online, do you attend? We know that you're not going to be able to show up in person. So are you, clicking on links that we send you? Are you interacting with things? So the caveat is that the big universities that all of us can name, they all know that you're interested in them. So they don't track demonstrated interest. You don't have to demonstrate your interest to them. They know you want to go there. The rest of us want to know if you're interested. So think about that. And again, that can be a whole nother session, how you show demonstrated interest and what that looks like. Again, here's some information about standardized tests. It's not as big a deal as it used to be, especially for international students. Because it's become harder to find and then to take the SAT or the ACT. With the caveat, again, it depends, that even if the SAT or ACT isn't required for admissions, it might be required for some scholarships. So keep that in mind. You need to sort of dig around on some of the university websites. It might also be required if you're a high-level athlete and you want to attend a Division I or Division II university to play sports for them. If you really don't know where you want to apply and you're just not sure, then looking into taking the ACT or the SAT will keep all the doors open. But again, if you look at fairtest.org, you'll be surprised at the number of universities that really don't require the SAT or the ACT. Don't start off by paying for test prep, because collegeboard.org and ACT.org are the official websites of the SAT and the ACT, and they offer free test prep. They don't want people to do badly on their tests. They want people to do fairly well so that people will keep coming back. If you do badly on the SAT, then you're going to go to the ACT instead. So it's sort of behooves them to help you do well on their tests. Not super well, but well enough. So they do offer a lot of free test prep, so take advantage of that. If you play sports, this is another thing that a lot of students are interested in coming to the U.S., playing for a U.S. sports team. So really do your research, start early, be honest with yourself. Just because you're the best player at your own school doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the best player in the U.S. So, I mean, and everybody has to have that conversation with them. Even, I say that when I was a high school counselor, talking to my students about where they would be going in the world. So the NCAA Eligibility Center has a website, and you can go on there and sort of set your profile and register, and that's sort of your first step. And that gives you a tick list of things to do as a potential university athlete in the US. And that's a great place to start, and sort of helps you wrap your head around, what's Division I, what's Division II, what does this look like? Okay, this is the most difficult part in discussing a general part of applying to the US. Applications and deadlines, because like I said before, every single one of us can make our own applications. Every single one of us can make our own deadlines. Luckily, there is a common application called the Common Application. And you can take a look at that at commonapp.org. Hundreds of US universities use it. It has a base that is a one-time form that you fill out. And then there's some little supplemental questions that each university can sort of carve out for themselves. But again, even though you're using a common application, there is still not a common deadline. Like with UCAS, it's a common application that has a common deadline. That doesn't work. So for the US, so we can all do our own thing. In addition to the common application, universities can also have college-specific applications. So for Transylvania, we have college-specific applications, and we are also on the common application. Don't do both. You can do one or the other, don't do both. It's just a waste of time. As you look at the different deadlines, you really would want to do a spreadsheet. That's sort of my biggest suggestion for staying organized. Do a spreadsheet of deadlines and forms that are required, what essays are required, what letters of recommendation are required. So for the deadlines, the terms that you're going to hear are early decision, early action, and regular decision. And probably the most important distinction is between early decision and early action. Early decision, I didn't make this up, but I'm going to use a dating analysis. Early decision means you are in love with the university and you want to marry them and be with them forever. So you apply early, you tell them you love them and that you want to marry them, and they hopefully will reply back that they want to marry you and be with you forever. And then you have to attend, and you tell everyone else that you're off the market, and you get married to this one university. So that's a very serious, that's a one and done, and everybody else is done. Early action, you tell many universities that you love them a lot, but you also love others. But you're still dating others, and you're still you're thinking about them a lot. And so you sort of put out a lot of early applications, and a lot of those universities will probably respond back early and say, well, we love you too, So please keep thinking about us, but you don't have to get married to anyone for a while. So you can still keep thinking about it. And then regular decision is just, you can think about everybody for as long as you want. Well, not as long as you want. Eventually you have to pick one. So just keep in mind, there's a difference between early decision and early action. I've touched briefly on some of these things, but in the application process, one of the most important things is that we are holistic. So we are asking you for all of these different pieces. We are looking for this, all of this to come together to make you a three-dimensional person. So we want to know who's going to show up on our campus. We're crafting a class. You'll hear that a lot. We're putting together, in our case, 300 people to come together to land on our campus in August of 2023 to work together to make our campus and community a great place. So there are all these things that come together to make the application and to help us understand who you are. And again, each one of these, I think you'll see that Next Genius does different sessions on all of these pieces. So stay tuned during the year, because you'll get deep dives into a lot of these different parts. So Transylvania, I've sort of hinted at a little bit of our university. We are small. We're a small private liberal arts university. We have about 1,000 students. And like I said before, we are undergraduate only, despite the university in our name. We are right in the middle of our city. We're a mid-sized city. And so for the US, that's about 300,000 people, which is pretty small, I think, for India size, but it's mid-sized for the US. So we're right downtown. We love being part of our community. Most of our students live on campus all 4 years. We are very active in our community. We're top 10 for community service in the country. And we have excellent placement in graduate programs or work. So once you graduate from Transylvania, within 6 months of graduation, 95% of our students are in a graduate program or in a job. So, and including, so some of our statistics that are here, 100% of our students that are recommended to law school that go through our pre-law program are in law school. And over 90% of our students that go through our pre-med advising program are in medical programs. So we have been doing this a long time. We're the 16th oldest university in the US. We were founded in 1780, before Kentucky was even a state. So we've been doing this a while, and we love what we do, and we have enthusiastic faculty who love helping you be successful. So that is it for me. Again, I'm Alice, and this is my contact information.